All right, everyone, we are live. Today is Tuesday, April 23. Today, we have a great show for you guys. Actually, got a former classmate of mine. We went to the same school, U of H, Hilton College program. I've known him for many years now. It's great, to have him on to catch up with him, and hopefully, you guys can get a lot of great, valuable info and advice from this conversation. So we have Okechi with us. Right now, he is a revenue manager. Sorry, twisting my words. A revenue manager for Hilton up in Dallas. But I'll hand it off to him so he can introduce himself to you guys.
Hey Mark, thanks for the introduction. Hey y'all, my name is Okechi. As Mark said, I am a corporate revenue manager in North Dallas working for Hilton. So basically, my job as a revenue manager, I guess specifically my role, I actually oversee a team of six revenue managers, and they each have 14 hotels. So in general, I my job is to kind of help them out, help them with development, help them with strategies with their own hotels, and overall doing what we need to do to drive RevPAR and overall just drive performance.
Awesome, awesome, cool. So yeah, we'll get more into your current role later. But for now, we're gonna kind of rewind into back in the day. So I mean, you've accomplished a lot so far, but can you describe to the people like what or who exactly, like what shaped you into getting interested into being in hospitality in the first place?
That's a pretty good question. I would say kind of what shaped me probably I'm just a very much a social creature. I like being around people. I like talking to people, and I straight up I just love hotels. I love food, and so this industry kind of allows me to dabble in both. In addition, I also love leadership. I love developing people. I love working with people, and I guess that's also kind of what kind of allows me to be in this industry. Um, I don't know if it's necessarily a specific moment that was like, hey, I want to do hospitality, but I would just say that I was in college and I was trying to figure out what my major is going to be. And then at the University of Houston, we do have the Conrad and Hilton College, which is a great, great program. Highly recommended. And that's where I was just like, oh, let's try it. And then I've kind of just gone for it ever since.
Awesome, cool. So after you decided you wanted to pursue a hospitality degree, so did you have an idea of like what exact position you wanted or exact goal you wanted, or did you go into it, just exploring different areas at first?
So I'm going to tell you what I thought I was going to do. Then I'm going to tell you what I thought I was going to do after I scrapped the idea. Then I'll tell you what I thought I was going to do after I scrapped the first two ideas. And I'll tell you where I actually am now.
All right.
So initially, I was like, hey, I really, really want to work in hotel operations. And so for others who don't know, hotel operations is like working front desk, working housekeeping, working food and beverage, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really what I strove for all throughout college, getting as much of that hotel operational experience as possible. So that meant working front desk in college, working banquets as a banquet server, being a restaurant server, interning in a like million square foot convention center, interning in pool operations at a 1,000 room resort, all of those things. And so I graduated and I was like, you know what, I really want to work food and beverage. And so I ended up working with like lodging for about a year and a half as a banquet manager at a about 30,000 square foot convention center hotel. And after like 8 months, I was like, you know what? I don't know if this is for me. I love leading a team of about 30 people. I love the energy of working in the banquet department, but I was just like, these hours are pretty brutal. You know, sometimes you'll work a 12-hour shift, You'll get off at 2 a.m. You gotta be back at like 6 a.m. the next day and work like a 14-hour shift. That just wasn't my cup of tea. And so from there, I actually moved back to Houston. I started working for Omni, and I was like, you know what? Let me try front office. I love checking people in and out, and working front office is really where you get the most customer interaction. And you also have to probably solve the most diverse set of issues in the hotel. Simply because of the front office, you're the first person the guest sees, and at times the last person the guest sees. So if they have an issue with food and beverage, if they have an issue with their banquet, if they have an issue with the cleanliness of their room, if they have an issue with the sales manager who booked their event, like they're going to come to you at the front desk, and I really welcome that challenge of trying to problem solve all these complex and diverse issues. And so I did that for about 8 or 9 months. After a while, I was like, again, operations probably not for me, but maybe let me try sales, right? And so from then I actually went to work for Expedia, and there I was a market associate. So basically think of it as like an assistant account manager in a way, where I wasn't necessarily in charge of the accounts, but my job was to help drive revenue through all of the hotels that Expedia worked with in the greater Houston area. So that pretty much meant making sure we had comparative rates, making sure there's no rate parity, making sure that we weren't closed out. So, for example, we didn't want a hotel to close out Expedia, but then be open their own site, because obviously then we're losing potential money because we're not available to actually sell. So my job was to go figure out what's driving those parity issues and contacting the hotels to really go and get them fixed. And I did that, and I said, you know what, sales thing really isn't for me. But part of that job was very analytical. There was a decent amount of revenue management, and I was like, you know what, this is what I really want to do. I want to do revenue management. And so kind of just fell into Hilton. I packed up my bags from Houston, moved to Dallas, and I started off at our revenue management center here. And I really don't see myself leaving anytime soon. I love data. I love analytics. I love hotels. I love figuring out what ways I can, you know, what things I can do to help drive revenue for my hotels, what strategies, what things can I test to really help us make money. And now I'm here.
Well, awesome. It's a great summary of your career arc. So can we kind of take it back a little bit to your internship that you had with so, you had an internship at Hilton College. So can you like explain to the people, especially to, let's say, maybe an incoming freshman that's gonna start a hospitality degree? So like, what recommendations would you tell that person if they wanted to, get into a similar internship that you were a part of?
My recommendation is to get as much work experience as possible. So I would say something that separates people, I guess when it comes to hospitality graduates, something that separates people who kind of struggle to find jobs compared to people who maybe are able to get jobs right after college or really get a leadership position right after college is at times like what work experience you have. So that means like your first semester on campus, second semester on campus, like get a job. It doesn't have to be inside a hotel or a restaurant. Maybe it's at the coffee shop down the street. Maybe it's as a tour guide on campus. Like whatever you can do to build that resume and to get experience is absolutely necessary. Um, Internships are good because at times they are specialized. So, for example, one of my internships was a rotational internship at a convention center where I worked in like 10 different departments / positions. That was cool. But had I gone and, worked as like a banquet server that entire summer, a front desk a front desk worker that entire summer, that would have also been, very beneficial experience for me too. So again, my recommendation, get as much work experience as possible. and don't feel the need to do the same thing all 3, 4, 5 years in college. Mix it up. Try something out for a year or two. Try something new. Maybe have an on-campus job at your hotel or at a restaurant like during the year. In the summer, do an internship, then come back to school and go back to the old job, continue to get experience. And the one thing that I think will really, really separate you is if you're able to get leadership experience as a whole. So, maybe you've been working at that restaurant on campus for like 2 years and get promoted to like a restaurant manager, restaurant supervisor. That's crucial because that's what employers are really, really looking for, people with leadership experience. Even if they hire as a front desk agent, maybe like, hey, this guy has, front desk manager experience. Maybe a year or two down the line, he can be a great candidate to get promoted.
Oh, awesome, cool. Yeah, that you made a great point when you said to while you're in school to try out different things. Don't feel like you have to do the same thing the whole time. That's a great point because I mean myself, because I started off in when I went to U of H, started off in banquets, and then I mean it was cool, but I just had a really deep interest in housekeeping. So I mean I got a part-time job cleaning rooms at a courtyard in the Galleria, and I got laid off there. So I found another job as a houseman in the same neighborhood. So I did that, and then I realized once I started housekeeping, I was like, oh, I can if I work hard enough, I can go farther in this department. As with if I had just only stayed in banquets, I mean, I was never interested in being a banquet manager. So if I just had that same position, I would have never had a chance to grow in something I was passionate about. So that's a great point that whatever, like if you're in school, like if you're not totally sure what you want to do when you get out, like you said, you can get an internship or just get any work experience you can just to, I mean, of course, you want to build your resume, but also it's good too to find out when you try out different things, you're gonna find out which, suits you the best, which one you like the most, and which type of job that you can not only like, but also, move up the ladder in.
Exactly. And to kind of build upon what you just said, I'm sure you can speak to this more than me, but I know that housekeeping is something that a lot of people shy away from. And I know because of that, especially hospitality students, they really shy away from housekeeping just because there's this negative stigma of having to clean rooms all day and how physical it is. But like if you're a hospitality student or a young hospitality professional and you have an interest in housekeeping, I feel that it's even easier maybe to climb up that housekeeping ladder simply because there probably isn't as much competition in regards to like college graduates. Like when you go and whenever you talk to hospitality students, they're like, yeah, I want to work front desk. I want to work banquets. I want to work restaurants. You don't see too many people wanting to work housekeeping. So I feel like if you go and you work in housekeeping, you'll be there. You are probably competing for leadership positions with people who maybe don't have as many college degrees compared to people at the front desk and the restaurant and banquets. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, yeah, yeah, exactly. It's exactly right. That's a great point. So yeah, like you said, when people go into hospitality, college program, like you said, they're thinking, I guess the more quote unquote prestigious type jobs would be like front desk. What else? Front desk,
Banquet,
like revenue manager, even banquets.
right?
But yeah, like yeah, there is I mean, there is a stigma attached with housekeeping because, like you said, I mean, it's dirty. Like you're gonna sweat, you might bleed.
Oh man, you're
It's.
right.
I mean, I've cut myself with. I carried when I was houseman. I was transferring like a bag, like a garbage bag, into a dumpster, and then there was a piece of glass in the garbage bag, and I cut my arm.
Oh
So I
man.
mean, it's just it's dirty work, but there is. But the advantage is that, there is less competition to if you're a hospitality student and you're working at a hotel in housekeeping as, let's say, a housekeeper or houseman. There is, you might be the only person in your department with uh, that's actually, pursuing a degree in hospitality. So I mean, as you get more experience in housekeeping, if you work hard, be responsible, do the right things, and then even before you graduate, you can get promoted to being a supervisor. And then when you graduate, you can become a housekeeping manager and you'll be in management that way. So for the people listening, there is, I mean, you do have options in management. You don't have to think, oh, the gateway to success is only through front desk or only through banquets or only through restaurant. You can that's how I got into management was just through housekeeping. So, and once you get to management housekeeping, then you can cross over into being an assistant general manager, and you'll be more into front desk stuff at that point. So there's different routes you can take. I mean, housekeeping is, I guess, the more physically demanding, dirtier route. But I mean, if you're not scared to get dirty, if you're not scared to sweat and all that, I mean, it's an option available to you guys.
Correct. So true.
All right, yeah. So yeah, we'll kind of shift gears now. Well, can we talk more about your time as a banquet manager?
Yeah.
So like right after you graduated, you were a banquet manager. So can you kind of explain to the people what was it like, being fresh out of school and now you're like an official manager of a department. So can you kind of tell the people like how you transition from being, a student, doing internships, having, non-management positions, and now you're just kind of out in the real world, so to speak. So can you elaborate on that?
Oh man. Uh it was challenging. Especially when I kind of look back in hindsight and I look like how much I've grown and developed as like a leader. I I'm kind of surprised that I was able to make it. So it was a challenge because like I had like leadership positions like within school in terms of like organizations or like different events, but like I had never managed people in a professional like real life setting. And so going there as a banquet manager, it was a challenging hotel because we at times had staffing issues and we didn't necessarily have real on the job training for young managers like myself. So I was not only really learning the advanced parts of banquet operations, but also learning how to be a leader too. And so it would have been one thing if I was like a banquet master, I knew everything that I need to know about being banquets, and I had to figure out how to be a leader. That's one thing. Or like if I had been like a seasoned leader and I'm learning banquets, that's one thing. But I think taking on both at the same time was definitely a very challenging thing. And so it was really like drinking out of a water hose for a good like 14, 15 months straight because you would think, oh, hey, I've got the handle of this, and then something happens, and you're like, I have no idea how to deal with this issue because it's never been presented to me before. And at times, if you don't necessarily have that experience to lean on, then it's pretty challenging. At the same time, that extremely challenging opportunity allowed me to get to where I am today. I've had to deal with people who were twice my age who I was managing who didn't like the fact that they were being managed by someone who was the age of their child. I had to deal with, temp staff who didn't really have any other motivation than just generating money. I had to deal with like pushing my body to the physical limit while also trying to encourage my team to do the same. And all of those things have really gave me the skills from a leadership standpoint that I personally lean on today. So long story short, very, very, very challenging. I would not recommend anyone be in the position that I was. My position, I don't mean banquet manager, but I mean new leader in a department that wasn't necessarily like a smooth running machine at the age of 22. I wouldn't recommend it, but I wouldn't have traded that experience in the world for anything, because again, I would not be here if it wasn't for that specific experience.
Wow, great story. I can definitely relate to that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so for all you, if you're currently, in getting your undergrad degree in hospitality, or if you're gonna, be a freshman this fall, yeah, like similar to Okechi's story, like he had, different leadership positions in school. So I mean, I'm sure that helped him a lot. I mean, there's no way you can totally prepare to be thrown to the wolves like that. But I mean, at least it gives you something to work with. So if you're still in school, yeah, I encourage you to. I mean, you don't have to be like vice president or president of 3 or 4 different clubs, but even just having a leadership role just in one club, even that can help you with your leadership skills throughout school. And if you guys are still in school, like just get as much, experience just being around and interacting with people. I mean, of course, you're gonna do that at whatever job you have, but even if like you join a club, like you're gonna have to learn to, deal with, everyone has different personalities. Everyone just has a different way of doing things. So just kind of just push yourself and just be out there with people. So you'll just learn how to. It'll be a good practice for you. So when you get out into the real world as a manager after graduation, you're not gonna be totally helpless. I mean, you still might. I mean, you're still gonna feel some like fear. You're still gonna feel like, oh, maybe I can't do this. But all the experiences you have in undergrad. I mean, it'll count. It'll help you in the future. I mean, you may not realize it or may not think it now, but in 4 or 5 years, whenever you're done with school, you'll see how it is. So
Yes, and the kind of last note on that, every every experience you have, whether it's a positive experience or a negative experience, is something that helps create who you are, not only professionally but also personally. So that really means, obviously, that doesn't mean, oh, go after that crappy job or that crappy company, but more so like, don't be afraid of a challenge and don't be afraid to take a risk. Because if that risk doesn't pay off, I guarantee you there are things that you learn from that failure that's going to help you off in your career later on. So I've made a lot of mistakes, but each of those mistakes have really, crafted me into being the professional I am today. Not that I'm like a big deal or anything, but in general, um, everything you do will ultimately help you become a better you.
yeah, very well said. Well said. Yeah, like you said, uh, yeah, just don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to fail. Because I mean, even if you do fail, I mean, if you put in your best effort, I mean, you're gonna still like learn a lot. You're still gonna have experiences you can look back on and use as a reference for the future. So I mean, regardless, I mean, you'll be fine regardless. So yeah, so let's now shift gears to your time when you were a front office manager at Omni. So can you kind of tell the people, you transitioned away from banquets, and now you're in the front office. So how did your experience as a front office manager, how did that prepare you? to be the revenue manager you are now?
So being an assistant front office manager, that was a whole another type of challenge than being bank manager. So being a banquet manager and being a front office manager, I guess in my respective hotels, we're still pretty short staffed. And the challenge that I had being short staffed is I spent less time developing my team and making sure that we had this not only the systems and processes in place that we need to be successful, but also not necessarily always having the time to maybe teach my team members, hey, this is the best way to do things, or hey, what do you want to do in your career? How can I help you get there? Et cetera, those type of things. So that was definitely a huge challenge there. At the same time, things I gained. Um, There, I managed not only the front desk, but also managed our PBX agents, and even to an extent, a little bit managed the concierge staff and the bellman. So being able to manage about four different positions at once was really beneficial for me in regards to like multitasking. Um, the highlight what I talked about before from a customer service standpoint, your front desk, someone's walking to you and you have no idea whether they're going to come and yell at you about something that is out of your control, that has absolutely nothing to do, it's not your fault, not the hotel's fault, but you still have to find a way to make that person happy. Especially like a four diamond luxury hotel that I was at. Absolutely crucial to make sure that everyone who leaves the hotel has a smile on their face and is happy. So that was challenging, but at the same time, I benefit from that today simply because whenever I'm communicating with one of the hotels I'm managing or my team members is communicating with it, you definitely have to have those customer service skills. Those skills where if someone has an issue, okay, what can I do to help turn this around? What can I help do to make sure we hit a happy medium where it's a win-win situation? Sometimes it's influencing skills. Someone comes to the front desk, they're angry. Okay, what can you do to influence them to get them to be in a better place? What can I do to influence this person to help us both meet a mutual goal? That's something that as a revenue manager, I use on a day-to-day basis. And so that's something I really, really benefited from in regards to front office. I'd say the last way I really benefited from working in the front office is when it comes to, I guess, high occupancy dates and trying to sell out. Most hospitality companies have some sort of KPI, which is key performance indicator, revolved around like your sell efficiency. So, for example, like how often are you selling out? The idea is if we get close to selling out, there's no reason why we shouldn't sell out. And so for me, I was always looking to say, hey, we have 3 or 4 rooms left. What can we do to sell the rest of these rooms? Or, hey, we have overbooking set to 3 rooms and I have 6 arrivals. Okay, who am I going to walk? Is this overbooking number realistic? Do we need to change it? Et cetera, et cetera. All things as a front office man, as an assistant front office manager, I had to think about every day compared to as a revenue manager, I'm also thinking about all the time.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I can definitely see how that ties in your experience with, like you said, you had 3 or 4 rooms left to sell, to sell out, and then you got to think of ways to sell the rooms basically, however you can.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome, cool. So now let's talk about when you're at Expedia. So do you feel like your time at Expedia that was a good bridge between being assistant front office manager and where you're at now? Was that a good bridge for you?
Yeah, that was Expedia was definitely probably the best bridge I can ask for. So I would say my role as the market associate was about 25%, uh, 25% analytics and revenue management, 75% sales. I would say the job from a revenue management standpoint was pretty surface level. It was really more so, okay, I'm looking at some really, really basic reporting. Hey, the hotels in your area are capturing more members only business than you. You should go and run this sale to generate more members only business. Or, hey, other hotels are capturing a higher rate than you. You should maybe consider this or that to capture a higher rate. Or, hey, you're not really getting your fair share. You need to do this and that to capture, more fair share. And so, again, from a reporting standpoint, a revenue management standpoint, pretty surface level. But when it comes to like a sales and influencing standpoint, it's okay, what do I need to do to convince these people to buy into my strategy? And so uh, I did that on a daily basis with Expedia compared to working at the RNCC in my previous role before I got promoted as a revenue specialist. When I was talking to hotels day in, day out, I had my own portfolio of 14 hotels. I was pretty much a consultant in a way that I come up with a strategy and I have to pitch a strategy to the hotel. So I can have the best revenue management strategy in the world, but if I can't get the decision maker, which is usually like the general manager or the DOS or the owner or the management company representative, if I can't get them to buy into my strategy, then it's for nothing. It was the same exact thing at Expedia, being able to get the decision makers on property to buy into whatever strategy that I was pitching. So from a revenue management standpoint, it was like a small introduction, but definitely from an influencing and sales standpoint, it was incredible because that really gave me almost a leg up compared to maybe other people who didn't have that type of sales experience.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't know all that. Interesting. Interesting. So yeah, you had, like you just told us, great experience at Expedia, it's learning more skills. So can you describe to the people, so how did you transition from Expedia to Hilton, where you became a revenue manager?
So it was maybe my year at Expedia, and that's when I was really realizing, hey, I really hate the job hop again, but this isn't making me happy. This isn't really itching my real urge in terms of like what I really want to do in my career. And I was just looking around, like what revenue management opportunities are around. And I was talking to one of my coworkers at Expedia, and he was like, "Yeah, I actually came from Hilton Corporate. We had this benefits. You have this great development. You have this great culture." And that's where I was like, okay, this is what I really, really want to do. And so, fortunately for me, the Hilton RMCC Corporate Revenue Management Office is seeing a lot of growth, and they have been over the past few years. And so there was a position available. I applied for it. I got it, and I ended up here. And so I've been here for about a year and a half.
Oh, awesome, cool. So, as a revenue manager, for people that they're not too familiar with hospitality, so like in layman's terms, how would you describe like your main duties as a revenue manager?
So the main duties of a revenue manager is to really generate as much revenue as possible. I think it's kind of like selling the right room to the right person at the right price at the right time. Um, I think that maybe putting in something that people can relate to is, let's say, I don't know, let's say you're selling cookies, right? And you know that some people might be willing to pay $5 for a cookie, some people might be willing to pay $3 for a cookie, right? You know that there are more people who are willing to pay $3 for a cookie than $5. So, what price are you going to set? Which is going to make you more money? Selling, you know, a higher price cookie to less people or a lower price cookie to more people? Like which strategy is the best? And maybe it's, hey, a chocolate chip cookie costs me $3 and a sugar cookie will cost you $4, right? Like what Can you, raise the rate of some cookies to make more money? And realistically, imagine if all those cookies go bad at the end of the day. So like you have to sell every single one of those cookies by the end of the day. If not, you have to throw them out. That's what hotel rooms are like. If I don't sell this room today, I can't really sell it tomorrow. Hotel rooms are extremely perishable. It's not like, oh, I'm selling groceries at a grocery store. Oh, if I don't sell this gallon of milk today, I can sell it tomorrow. Hotels don't work like that. If that room is empty tonight, then I have lost my ability to make money off of that room. I can't retroactively go and sell that room, unfortunately. And so revenue management is really taking into consideration all of those things and trying to drive as much revenue and as much money as possible.
Oh, awesome. Great explanation. So, let's say if someone is interested in getting into revenue management, what kind of prior experience, what kind of credentials and or qualifications would someone need to have a serious shot at getting a revenue manager position?
So I would say someone, I don't want to say a college degree is required, but it definitely helps. So let's say having a college degree in like business or in economics or hospitality or in sales, those are definitely helpful. In terms of direct work experience, if you're someone who's already working with data and analytics, because that's what revenue management really is, trying to maximize revenue through data analytics. So if you're like working like you've been like an economist, or if you are somebody who works with numbers, those are all things that can be directly translatable experience. Other things to think about is if you have hotel experience and you can really understand things from a hotel standpoint. So maybe if you've managed a front office, or you have worked in housekeeping, or maybe if you want to get into the airline side or the car side of revenue management, if you've worked in the airline industry or the car industry and you have direct experience of what those industries are like, that can really help you get in. And another way is definitely from like a sales standpoint in terms of like understanding the numbers. So sales managers at hotels, they're selling rooms day in and day out. They're familiar with the terminology of revenue management. They are familiar with the concepts, and that also allows them to be able to step into a revenue management role and be successful. So in other words, there's so many different ways to get into revenue management, but the key thing is to I would say that the key thing is to really just know what it is that you want, and kind of just go for it.
Okay, awesome, cool. So, okay, this question is more kind of on my behalf, more so than the audience. But I mean, right now I'm a housekeeping manager, and have a bachelor's degree, and of course from Hilton College. So, like, maybe not just me, but other, housekeeping managers like myself that went through school and everything. So how could me or someone like me transition, from where we're at to getting into revenue management for a hotel?
So what I would do is first thing I would do is what I call flex your network. So you working at a hotel, speak to your GM, speak to your assistant general manager, speak to your owner, speak to your director of sales, speak to a management company. Say, hey, I'm really interested in revenue management. Do we have any positions open in our company? Or hey, you know, who handles revenue management for our hotel? Am I able to talk to them? Am I able to, pick their brain? Am I able to shadow them? Really kind of do that to kind of tell people that, hey, this is what I'm interested in. What can I do to kind of get there? Right. And once you go and you have those conversations, then you're like, okay, maybe you shadow a few revenue calls, maybe you shadow your revenue manager. You kind of learn and figure out, like, hey, this is something I actually like, something I might be interested in. And then from there, I would just start like applying for positions and continue to flex that network. So, for example, Mark, you know me. If you're ever like, hey, I want to work in revenue management, I would try to point you in the right direction, whether it's here at Hilton, whether it's with a different company, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say definitely if you're in the hospitality industry, especially if you're in a hotel, there's someone who manages revenue for your specific hotel. Try to find out who they are and pick their brain. And from I guess in terms of other ways of finding jobs, revenue management is a very fast growing part of the industry. And that's simply because I think for a long time, many hotels were just setting the same rates every day. They weren't using revenue management tools and they weren't really putting any strategy behind it. And the more and more that people use revenue management, the more and more they realize how beneficial it is and how crucial it is to their operation in regards to generating revenue. And so because of that, you're seeing more and more and more and more and more revenue management positions opening up every single day. So for example, at the RMCC, we're constantly hiring because we have so many hotels that are trying to have us run their revenue management. And so that is a direct reflection of Hilton as a whole seeing the value of revenue management, but also those individual management companies and hotel owners and franchisees who see, wow, I don't have the time or the expertise to manage my hotel's revenue management, but let me find someone else to do it. So those opportunities are out there. You just have to be able to put yourself in a position to capture them.
Wow, that's great. I had no idea like revenue managers that was like a rapidly expanding position. I had no idea. It's very
Yeah,
interesting.
it's kind of I don't know things from a technical standpoint, but I want to say that over the past like 4 years, 5 years, my division within RMCC, which is the division that manages focus service hotels, which is like your smaller hotels, like your Hampton Inns, your Hilton Garden Inns, your Homewood Suites, those type of hotels, we probably over the past 5 or 6 years maybe doubled in size, or at least double in regards to like people. Just to give you an idea. So I think we maybe have like 200 or so people who directly manage focus service hotels compared to maybe like 5, 6 years ago, we probably had like 50. Just a
Mhm.
rough guess. Just to give you an idea. And like we're not even like anywhere near close to where we want to be in regards to our growth perspective. So like we're just growing, growing, growing. And I can assure you, like every other hotel company out there is also eyeing that potential growth in regards to revenue managed positions and then making sure that they're beefing up to handle all of the demand for revenue managers.
Oh, okay, okay, awesome. Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, yeah, so we're almost at 8, but we'll take this time now to ask. We'll always ask this to all my guests on the channel. So, question is, so like, what advice would you give to someone? Let's say they're fresh out of high school, or they're just starting college, and they wanna eventually get into revenue management, or not even just that, just any management. So, like, what advice or tips would you give that person starting out to I guess give them essential knowledge, or something that is not something that maybe professors or teachers won't really tell you, but you feel like it's valuable and they should they should know it going into pursuing their degree and their career.
That's a good question, especially when you threw in the whole what your professor or teacher might not tell you. Huh. So, in terms of being a revenue manager, just getting into hospitality or management, I would say something that I feel like I wasn't told enough in school is don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I say that because you're going to fail and you're going to make mistakes. And if you're not prepared to fail and if you're not prepared to make mistakes, it's going to be a lot harder to recover from them. So, for example, if anyone here watches basketball or football or baseball or soccer, whenever you see someone, get hit and you watch the way they fall, they usually don't fall face first. They usually are able to brace themselves because they know, hey, I'm gonna get hit, and they like put their arms out to like cushion their fall, right? Because they know that, hey, that's just the nature of the beast. They're gonna get hit. They're gonna do their best to like prevent that hard impact from hitting them when they hit the ground. I think the workplace, especially when it comes to like trying to rise the ranks and become a leader, is the same way. Like you're gonna fail. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have blood, sweat, tears, etc., etc. And it's important to know that's gonna happen. It's important to know like that's gonna come. So when they do come, you're as prepared as possible. Some things you can't be prepared for, but when you know that you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna fail, you can almost form like contingency plans to help you either prevent those or to help you recover faster. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, totally, yeah, for sure. Excuse me. Yeah, like you said, guys, you don't be afraid to fail. I mean, you don't even have to look at it as failure. I think the real failure is just like giving up, and
Yes.
you know what I mean? That's probably the
Yes.
real failure. But
That is so true.
yeah, so just good look at, I guess, if you want to put failure in quotes, look at those quote unquote failures as, I mean, learning basically. I mean, that's just life. I mean, even like now, I'm a manager now, and I still mess up. Like, you know what I mean? So
Exactly.
like it never. I mean, I want like the young kids out there to realize, even if you've been a manager for 25, 30 years, like there's you can't avoid failure. It's just gonna be there. But what you can do is, learn as much as you can from the failures and do your best to not repeat them. So
Correct. Exactly. I think that's crucial.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, we're almost at 8 now. So again, I wanna thank Okechi for joining us tonight. I know he's a busy man, busy schedule, but I do, myself and on behalf of everyone watching now or later, we really do appreciate your time in joining us and sharing your real world experience and knowledge. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, man. Anytime, of course.
And are you like, I should ask you this beforehand, but are you open if any listeners want to network with you? Are you open to them like contacting you on LinkedIn?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Feel free, Mark, to post my email address.
Oh, okay, awesome, thanks. Yeah, so everyone that's watching, yeah, I'm gonna have his email address in the description. And can they add you on LinkedIn too? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I'll leave a link to his LinkedIn as well, everyone. So, to all the listeners now or later, thank you for joining us. And till next time, we'll see you guys.
Sounds good. See y'all.